And welcome back, and we apologize for that slight technical hitch on a Zoom link with Martin Keno, who's co-founder of Sports Tech Africa. Well, like we mentioned, is that he is a former athlete, 7 world records he's paced, and Martin joins us now via Zoom. And Martin, let's get straight to this. And, the whole idea of coming together with Kerubo Bomanyi, putting together Sports Tech Africa and, using this platform to communicate a new way of doing sport on, not just in Kenya, but also on the continent.
Yes, that's right. We started this conversation 3 years ago on how we can bring up the discussion of the convergence of sports and technology, not only here in Kenya, but in Africa. So finally, we've managed to organize it. We are all set for October 16th and 17th at the Stroud University Business School, the first sports technology conference.
So a month to go, but let's take a look at some of the things. You had the advantage of having, the American education and also competing at the highest level. What were the technology aspects and sports science aspects that you experienced when you moved from Kenya, went to the US, and was also competing in what was then known as the Golden League?
That's right. I was fortunate to have the benefit of experience in technology and sport from way back. Being associated with Nike, the footwear, the apparel was on a higher level. I mean, Nike, of course, designs some of the best technology in sports. Even back then, they were many years ahead of the rest of their competitors, and the footwear gave you an advantage, much like it is now with the Vaporfly and how it has benefited Eliud Kipchoge. Timing, training, equipment, all sorts of technology being applied to all areas of sports that has benefited the athletes and fans, coaches in general.
So let me just start with that. It was actually somewhere in the middle of my notes, and how footwear has evolved over the years. You could get access to some spikes when you were here, but when you went through your college days and also competing, in the big meetings, then how was the footwear designed, and how was the kitting designed to suit, say, a sprinter, somebody in the 100, 200, say up to 400? Those in the middle distance, the 800, the 1500 meters, and those who are doing the 5,000 and the 10,000.
Okay, for the different categories of athletes, from the sprints to middle distance to long distance, the spike was designed very differently. Of course, for the short distance races, there was literally no heel, no cushioning for a sprinter's spike. As opposed to a middle distance runner where there's slightly more cushioning, and then for the longer distance runners there's a lot more cushioning, and that and the shoes were lighter. I mean, it looked lighter, but they weren't as light as they are now. So yeah, that was the difference back then, and I still have a pair of my old spikes from the mid-90s. And you cannot compare them to what they are now, because they are they're way bigger. I mean, they're way bigger and heavier, and the plate is made of different materials, as opposed to now with the carbon plates, which are much lighter. They respond better. They give more energy to the runner. So yeah, there's a lot of difference in terms of the actual footwear technology from 20, 30 years ago that it is now.
So let's move on to something else, and this is timing systems. We saw the IAAF, then, as it was then known, now World Athletics, focus on timing system, especially for the sprints 100 meters all the way to the 400-meter hurdles, inclusive of the 400, the 1 lap, anything up to 1 lap, where they move from hand timing and moving on now to electronic timing. How did that change the landscape for so many athletes, and how they approach everything, especially if you're to look at sprinters, people who've got to get off the blocks, how they changed their approach to sport?
That's right. It is impacted the way athletics is run now, given the quality of timing. It's very exact, particularly let's say for the start, the sprints where the start is critical. And if if you're too fast off the blocks, the sensors, immediately detect that, as well as the finish where it comes out to a hundredth, thousands of a second that they can determine who has won. A good example is this year's Paris Olympic 100 meters, where it was literally determined by thousands of a second. And it goes to show the quality of timing has improved tremendously, that they're able to, decide who the winners are for some of these major events. Yeah, so the timing quality has been amazing. And then now even, it really is down to, giving you splits in each, literally, you can get splits for each, 10 meters if you want.
Well, very interesting. And how then, for example, because I want to put this together with analytics technology, we've seen, at times where athletes, may have legitimate equipment, something that keeps up with their blood sugar. And also, for example, in sports like rugby and also football, we've seen them have the vests that carry, little chips that measure heart rate, distance, how quick athletes are reacting, how they accelerate, how they decelerate. How do you put this now together to analyze the best way to take, an athlete's coaching system and overall improve their performance?
Yeah, certainly data analytics has played a huge part in the improvement of for athletes training and competition. You can get stats and data for absolutely anything you can, and just analyzing. And guess that goes down to the data analyzers who look at every aspect of your training. Be it of course what you consume, how fast you run, what your form is like, and analyze that to help you improve in the best possible way how to train and get the most out of your training. So yeah, it's played a huge part in the improvement of athletes across the world, the ones who have access to that kind of data analytics and the support around that. Look at the Americans, look at the Chinese, Australians, who have the technology and the equipment to manage that. So yeah, they've improved tremendously. Where typically it was just talent before, and now it's got to be the technology and the science behind this, and data analytics plays a huge part in that.
Well, you could just for example, give us from your past personal experiences. Is they say in the cloak and dagger business that there is nothing that can beat human intelligence. 7 world records that you have paced, and how you would be given this information, and you're told, well, we want athlete A to break the 5,000 meters world record. We want him to run in under 12 minutes, 50 seconds. But at 3,000, every so many meters, we want you to be at this point. How are you breaking down, that kind of information such that the clock you have on the track and also your rhythm tend to be in sync?
I was one of the fortunate ones. I had sort of like an inner lock who could sense how fast I was running or how slow I was going, and I could tell I was very good at running evenly, which is a tough thing to do in middle and long distance running. To run as possible, let's say running 60.5 seconds per lap for 7 laps. Somewhat I had that innate feeling of determining that, and how it felt, how a 60-second or 59-second felt as opposed to a 61 laps. But now, in terms of the clocks, fortunately had clocks or managed was positioned at some point the track, and that we managed to do. How fast I need to run. So,
well, we are speaking with Martin Kano. He is, a former athlete. He's now an athletics commentator, and he's co-founder of the firm Sports Tech Africa. And they are going to be hosting a conference next month at the Strathmore University, the impact of technology and science in sports development and performance. And coming to Martin, let's now talk about something that has come through. And one of the new things that's coming up is assistive technology for para sports. And with the Paralympics Games having come through, this is an area of interest that many would have. Just, give us a whole idea about assistive technology for para athletes. They could be those who are hearing impaired, there could be those who are visually impaired, or those who may not, may have lost a limb or may have been, born with a condition that doesn't allow them to have full use of their limbs.
Yes, assistive technology has come to the fore, particularly now with the Paralympics getting a strong foothold in their own championships, and it's so varied, and it's each event, and there's several events in the Paralympics, in several categories that require these athletes to be assisted with technology out there. The ones who have no limbs, who have, are visually impaired, they require, technology of the highest level to enable them to compete, because physically they may not have all the capabilities, but, utilizing these kinds of technologies made specially for them in order to compete at the highest level. So assistive technology is something that, is taking a huge part, and a lot of tech companies are getting into it because the people who are embracing it are quite a number. And this is one of the topics that we'd like to discuss in our sports technology conference, because access to these technologies, is crucial, if you are to compete at the highest level, in the Paralympics. If you don't have the modern equipment that, some of these countries have, you are unable to compete at the same level. So assistive technology is next phase of technology that is being taken seriously. And there's so many different parts of, so many equipment that needs to are developed there because of that.
Okay, let's just give us an example of assistive technology so that those who, viewers can fully understand what this is.
Okay. An example, some of the crutches that a lot of they add-ons to athletes who don't have, say, feet. There's some carbon fiber plates that they attach to their feet that enable them to run, normally. And those have been, they've been developed at a such high level that a lot of these things can regular athletes who have feet, natural legs, can run. These are curved plates that are attached to athletes who don't have, say, legs, below their knees. Those plates nowadays are at such high level that they enable the athletes to walk, run, jump, in a very.
All right, thank you very much. Attending the conference, final word for you from you, Martin, because I know as we come to the end of this interview, the whole concept of the conference and, what you would need from those who would be attending on the 16th and 17th of October.
Yes, we're bringing together, different, people from the sports and technology industries to come and have this conversation of where, what's available, how can we use technology in sports? Sport is a consumer of technology, being in data analytics, equipment, footwear. We're coming to have these discussions with all, athletes, sports people, and all people, even in the IT industry, in the technology industry. We are bringing them together to have, particularly here in Kenya and in Africa, to discuss ways how we can utilize, we can source some of these equipment to improve performances as Kenya and as African countries, because, that's the difference now. You know, if you don't have access to technology in your training or management or fan engagement, you're basically are not being able to be competitive in the modern world of sport. So we want to have those discussions. And, you know, we're bringing in a lot of keynote speakers from around the world. We've invited a lot of sports tech companies to come and showcase their products and services to the market here, and just see what is available and see how we can now utilize some of these technologies to improve our performances in sport. So this is the first one in Africa, and we really want to take this conversation to a higher level, because talent, innate ability isn't enough anymore. You know, we have to utilize technology and science in our preparations for our sports going forward.
Thank you very much, Martin Kano, and sorry about, what happened, to on your way here. I would have had this in-depth conversation, but thank you for the time you've given to us this morning. 16th and 17th of October, the Strathmore University Business School. It's a conference on how to harness technology and science for the development of sports. Thank you very much.
Right.
And thank you very much of you for being with us over the past 2 hours as we had conversations about para sport and technology in sport. My name is Daniel Wahome. Our sign language interpreter has been Anne Wangeshi. Coming up next is Kurunzi Mashinani with Nancy Okware, followed by our interview program, Tam Rini. That's lined up immediately after this feature from Dosha Vela. Have a good day.